Welcome to this week's video. I'm Pastor Dave, and it's nice to be with you again this week. And it's an important week. You know, most of the country here in America is waiting for the president to be inaugurated and to make it official. So next week, all that's happening, and you got confirmation hearings going on here in America this week. But there is a big story happening that really isn't being talked about much in the American media. On the 15th of January, which is a couple days from now, there's going to be 70 nations that will gather for a conference in Paris, France. Now, as these 70 nations gather, the purpose for them coming together is to talk about Israel and Palestine and the two-state solution. Now, I don't know how much you follow the current events, especially around Christmas time, but on December 23rd, just 2 days before Christmas, the UN Security Council passed Resolution 2334. And basically what that did is it said that the settlements in East Jerusalem were now illegal settlements over in Israel. And it basically said that that land belongs to Palestine. So because that was pushed through, and the big hoopla about that was that America, the U.S., had the right to veto that, and they did not veto that. We abstained from voting, which means we allowed it to pass. Which means we supported that resolution 2334 in the UN Security Council on the 23rd of December. In fact, it said that our Secretary of State, John Kerry, now again, not much media is being done here in America, but the Times of Israel is reporting this, the Guardian, a foreign newspaper, is reporting this, a newspaper in Egypt is reporting this, and a spokesman for Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, he spoke to CNN, and he also spoke about this. So CNN did cover it from that side. But it is reported that John Kerry, our Secretary of State, went to Palestine in early December to say this is what they wanted to do. The Israelis are claiming that Resolution 2334, America did more than just abstain from voting. The Israel government and leadership is saying that our country is the one that basically crafted that resolution and pushed it through. We were the ones behind the scenes to make sure that that resolution went through, declaring the settlements in East Jerusalem to be illegal. And now that we have a new president coming in, there's not much he can do because this is not an American law. This is a UN resolution. So this conference taking place on the 15th, what the concern is and what the fear is in Israel is that these nations will gather together and they will make Palestine a member of the UN Security Council, a full voting member. Now, they're saying in order for this to happen, because Donald Trump, the incoming president, says he will not allow that to happen, he will veto that at the UN. So they're trying to push this through before January 20th. That's interesting. That's coming up in a few days as well. So the question is, can this conference be pulled off? Will it be successful? And if it is, can they get to the UN and can they get a resolution passed to allow the Palestine to be a full-fledged member of the UN Security Council? That's what's coming up in the next week or so. This amendment that's already being passed, and what they're talking about is pushing Israel and Palestine back to the 1967 borders. June 4th, 1967, Israel took the area that we're talking about now. When we look at East Jerusalem as well, this is the capital. This is Jerusalem. You're talking about the Western Wall area. You're talking about the Temple Mount. These are areas that are very holy and important to Israel. When you go to the 1967 borders, Israel really loses the ability to defend themselves. Because when you look how far Ben Gurion Airport, the major airport in Tel Aviv, is to these other borders from 1967, they're so close together. We're just miles apart. They cannot protect the airport. So Israel really cannot defend themselves with the pre-1967 borders. And you look at East Jerusalem, when they're building these apartments, these settlements, that's basically what they are as apartments. There's 137 settlements right now in East Jerusalem. It deals with over 500,000 people. What happens to them? Even if there's some land swaps involved, what happens to them? And what happens now that the fact that America abstained in December, that Resolution 2334 was passed, it is basically illegal. Those territories now are basically illegal. And now that that land has been given by the UN to the Palestinians, if they go through all the legal recourses and Israel does not stop building or giving up the territory, what happens? Does that force Palestine to go into battle? Does this lead to war in the Middle East? You know, this whole peace plan and two-state solution, does it not lead to peace but to war? There's so many things that could happen here. And again, we're not talking about it here in the States. So anyhow, I just want you to be aware of what's happening, what's coming up. I don't know if they can pull it off in a few days. I don't know. Behind the scenes, they say they've been working on this since early December. That Secretary of State John Kerry went to Palestine, laid out all the plans and said, do you guys agree with this? Are you guys in on this? If you are, we'll push it further. So we'll see what happens. We live in very interesting times. And you're going to be hearing about the inauguration. You're going to be hearing about, the pros and cons. You're going to hear about the confirmation hearings and who's in. But there's a much bigger thing at stake right now. And that's coming up on the 15th of January. And possibly, if they can push it through, by the 20th of January. Anyhow, just wanted to make sure that you are aware of this. If you want more information, you can go to my website. It's called interpretingthetimes.com. If you Google that, it's all one word, interpretingthetimes.com. Would love to hear your thoughts on this and if you're aware of this. But again, I look forward to seeing you again next week, being back with you again next week. Until then, God bless you.